As the days get shorter and the sun starts to go down, you may think that the garden season is coming to an end. Well, it's not. You can extend that garden season well off into the winter by planting leafy greens, cauliflower, broccoli, etc. And now is the perfect time to do it between late August and early September. And the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to start seeding my seeds in these mini greenhouses slash seed starting kits. One I'm going to use for my flowers and one I'm going to use for my vegetables. And it's very simple. You put some soil in there and then you drop your seeds. And this kit, it comes with these handy little shovels and picks and some labels, even some gloves and a user manual. And to add to that, I'm going to build a tote so that way I can keep these two together and I can move them wherever I want to around the shop or around the yard. But mainly it's just to keep these together and an easy way to move them if I need to move them out the way. Before I walk you through the steps, this is what the joint's supposed to look like. These are the essential tools needed to complete the joint. A digital angle finder, a standard triangle, 90 degrees, 1/8" blade, a ruler, a depth gauge, another depth gauge, and a zero clearance insert. It's going to be loud in here because I have my air filter on and my fan on. What I'm going to begin with is raising the blade up and setting it to that 22.5 degree angle. And to do that, I have to zero out my digital angle finder and then raise it to 90 degrees and zero it out there. Now that it's zeroed out at 90, now I can tilt it so I can find the 22.5 degree angle. Now that that's locked in place, now I'm ready to go. I need to cut a curve in my zero clearance insert. But as you're going to find out that it won't go down because the blade is too tall. So what I have to do is swap the blade out for a smaller blade to create that curve. Now that the zero clearance insert is in, I'm going to raise the blade up now that it's locked in place. This is what I'm looking for. So now I can swap the blade back out to my original 10-inch saw blade and then crank it up to get the full depth of the curve. base for the tote is going to be 18 by 22, and the sides are going to be 3.5 by 22. First things first, I need to raise the blade up 1 inch. Next, I need to get the first tooth that comes out of the kerf. I need to measure that 1/8 inch from the fence. Now I take my side and run it through. With that done, I need to move the fence and lower the blade 3/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to scoot the fence over and measure 7/8 of an inch from the front tooth of the blade on this side to the plywood. So that way I can have my starting point for my tongue. Now I'm ready to make my first cut. And that's what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to repeat the process, scoop the blade over until I get about a quarter of an inch, so that way I can create my tongue to fit inside. Now that it's a quarter of an inch, now I'm going to nibble away on this edge just so I can get it to the thickness of the bottom. Now that I have it nibbled down to the thickness, now I can start rabbiting the edges along here. I can make that tongue so I can slide into the groove right here. So now I'm going to tilt the blade to 90 degrees and then run it through. I want to leave a quarter of an inch from the top to the blade. So I'm going to set the ruler on top of the blade and lowering down until I see a 1/4 inch on my ruler. Now I'm going to set the fence. Now I'm going to nibble away until I keep going in and in until it slides in that groove. Now that I cut the tongue extra long, I made a mark for which way the angle is supposed to be. So I'm going to tilt it back to the 22.5-degree angle and slightly trim off the edges. So that way it can match the angle of the groove. All done. Now I'm just going to glue it up, and then for this portion I'm going to just glue on the side and then cut a little handle in the middle so that way I can pick it up. For the side pieces, I just put a piece of plywood to the side and made a mark, ripped it down, and now I'm just going to follow that angle that's already there. Draw a line up, straight up, just like that. To find that angle exact to the T, I'm going to take that line that I drew, set it against my miter gauge, put the angle finder against there, and then line the line up with the angle finder, tighten it down, and then now I have my angle. So what I can do is now put this up to the blade and then loosen my miter gauge and adjust it. And then once I get it to where it's flush against the back part, then that's the perfect angle. Then lock it down, I'm ready to make that cut. Now that the sides are cut, I'm ready to start laying out for the handles. With the sanding block, I went ahead and knocked down the corners and sanded the edges and glued up the sides, and now it's ready to be put in use. Now it's time to grab some seeds and turn on the lights.